The New World Translation translates John 8:58 as, "Before Abraham came into existence, I have been," whereas most translations say, "Before Abraham came into existence, I am." The idea being that Jesus is identifying himself as the I am, an allusion to Exodus where God supposedly identified himself as the I am. Some critics say Jesus is literally saying he is Jehovah, and this is confirmed in verse 59, where the Jews pick up stones to kill Jesus in response to his blasphemy in claiming to be God. However, as we shall see, an examination of the Greek, the Exodus account, and customs of the time show a different story. The Jews asked Jesus if he had seen Abraham, a seeming impossibility given Jesus didn't look even 50 years old. Jesus replied saying in the Greek that before Abraham existed, ego eimi. Ego eimi literally means I am, and is in the present tense. This seemingly makes no sense. After the phrase before Abraham was, we would expect something in the past tense, not the present. However, textbooks discussing the progressive tense, which denotes that which has begun in the past and continues into the present, and that it's generally associated with an adverb of time, and may be best rendered by the English perfect. In the example given, Jesus is talking to his disciples and says, "For you have been with me from the beginning." The English translation is in the past tense, however the Greek is in the present tense, as it is included with an adverb of time, after "you have been with me from." Similarly, Jeremiah in the Greek Septuagint, the English reads, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." The Greek has "I know you," the present tense, whereas the Hebrew uses the past tense. In John 8:58, there is the statement, "Before Abraham was," pointing to the past. Hence, ego eimi is translated into the past tense to signify Jesus existing before Abraham and still existing. Whilst it's not the most common translation, there are other Bible translations in modern times which include Jesus' statement in the past tense. On top of this, even very old translations dating back to the 4th and 5th centuries use a comparable translation. For more examples of this type of language construction, please see the video description. The main challenge is that Jesus is using ego eimi as a quote from Exodus in the Greek Septuagint, being used as God's name to identify himself as Jehovah in a trinitarian sense. Leaving aside issues translating the name in Exodus as I am, the Greek Septuagint translates verse 14 as ego eimi ha on, translated here as I am the being. Later on in the verse the name is repeated, however it's only ha on or the being, not ego eimi, the I am part. Therefore I am is not the name. Indeed, if we replace ego eimi with another name or title, the phrases before Abraham was James or before Abraham was king make no sense. It should be noted that ego eimi is also used in another sense. For instance, in John chapter 4, when talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, the Samaritan woman says that she knows the Messiah is coming. Jesus responds with, "I am the one speaking to you." However, the predicate is implied by the Samaritan woman as being the Messiah. So by saying ego eimi, Jesus is saying that he is the Messiah, and this is how some Bible translations translate it, either as I am he or I am the Messiah, no thought of a claim to deity. In John 18, where soldiers and priests come to arrest Jesus, Jesus asks them who they are looking for. They say, "Jesus of Nazareth," and Jesus replies with, "I am." Here Jesus is confirming that he is Jesus of Nazareth they are looking for, and plenty of Bible translations use I am he. Critics will mention that in response to Jesus' I am statement, they fell to the ground, which would only make sense if Jesus were claiming to be God. However, as Barnes points out, the cause of their retiring in this manner is not mentioned. Various things might have produced it. The frank, open, and fearless manner in which Jesus addressed them may have convinced them of his innocence, and deterred them from prosecuting their wicked attempt. His disclosure of himself was sudden and unexpected, and while they perhaps anticipated that he would make an effort to escape, they were amazed at his open and bold profession. In addition, John quotes the blind man in John chapter 9 as also saying, "Ego eimi." However, this is no claim to deity, Instead, the blind man is confirming that he is the former beggar. There are other instances of ego eimi in the Greek scriptures and the Greek Septuagint. However, they follow similar ways of self-identification, as have been shown, without being a claim of deity. Another challenge is that in verse 59 the Jews pick up stones to kill Jesus, as blasphemy carried the death penalty. If Jesus were merely claiming to be a lot older than he looked, this might make him delusional, but wouldn't be an act of blasphemy. However, they were already looking to kill Jesus. In the chapter before, Jesus asked them why they were seeking to kill him, and earlier on in chapter 8, the same thing, many verses before verse 58. Several times Jesus claimed to be a representative of God and speaking on behalf of God. Not only could speaking on behalf of God be viewed as blasphemy by the Jews, this would place a high burden on Jesus to speak truthfully. Being a false prophet carried the death penalty. In verse 51, Jesus says those keeping his word will never see death. The Jews reacted by saying Jesus had a demon and that Jesus cannot be claiming to be greater than Abraham, their father, who died. Claiming Jesus was a demon could have been an insinuation that Jesus was involved with spiritism or a medium, a sin punishable by stoning. So if Jesus responded by saying that he was greater than Abraham, it would be a rejection of the defense from the Jews that he was simply possessed by a demon and speaking nonsense, and hence, in the eyes of the Jewish religious leaders, they would be acts of false prophecy and blasphemy. And this is exactly what Jesus did, by saying he was older than Abraham. We can see why claiming to be older than Abraham was claiming to have more authority than Abraham, because of what John the Baptizer said in John chapter 1, that Jesus was of higher rank than him. Why? Because he existed before him. So, by saying he existed before Abraham, he was saying he was greater than Abraham, and in the eyes of the Jews this would make him guilty of false prophecy and blasphemy. By calling Abraham their father, the personal nature of Jesus' response is also apparent. Adding to this, earlier as recorded in Mark, Jesus was accused of breaking the Sabbath, another capital crime. So breaking the Sabbath, uttering false prophecy, blasphemy, and being a medium were all capital offences the Jews could have been looking to kill Jesus for. The final straw was then claiming to be greater than their father Abraham. In their eyes this was Jesus doubling down on the capital offences of false prophecy and blasphemy, nothing to do with claiming to be the I Am or making allusions to Exodus.